Who the hell do you think you are just because you wear a judge's robe? You think you can order me around? That's what Travis Brantley screamed, right into Judge Malcolm Varelli's face, right before he slapped him. Not a shove, not some behind-the-scenes disrespect and open-handed slap across the face of a black judge, in open court, in front of everyone like he was disciplining a child or maybe a criminal who'd gotten out of line. You know what I mean? That slop hit wasn't just about two men or a personal grudge. It was the noose tightening around a whole system that, for years, let people like Travis use their badge or their bench to get away with whatever they wanted. And I swear, for the first time in a long time, justice didn't just threaten to stand. It got up and made the whole damn system bow, if only for a second. That Monday morning started out like any other, in a state courthouse tucked into the concrete veins of a southern city. Nothing flashy. No media circus. The docket was full of minor cases, except one. A 16-year-old black kid, Jalen Ford, was being charged for obstructing a law enforcement officer. Yeah, that's right, obstructing, which if you looked at the report, basically meant the boy looked at the officer wrong. Jalen was all elbows and knees, still baby-faced, wearing a shirt too big, sitting there hunched over, not crying, but not meeting anyone's eyes either. He looked like he wanted to disappear, the way a lot of kids do when grown-ups start throwing around words that can ruin your life. On the other side of the aisle, Officer Travis Brantley was ready for his star turn. He entered the courtroom like he was walking onto a stage, heavy boots, shoulders squared in that stiff beige uniform that makes state troopers look like they could push a car uphill. No one needed an introduction. His presence alone froze the air. The badge on his chest, his nameplate, the way he slouched into the witness chair, all of it said, "I run this place." Judge Malcolm Varelli, for his part, barely moved. He just tilted his head, like he'd seen this act 1,000 times. Didn't need to bang his gavel, didn't need to raise his voice. His calm made everyone else sit a little straighter. But Travis? He didn't care about order. He sprawled at his seat, looked right at Malcolm, and you could feel the disrespect leaking out of him. Malcolm started with the facts. "Officer Brantley, please recount the events of that evening." Brantley's voice was steady, even smug. "Routine patrol, residential zone 8. A group of teenagers. I told them to disperse. Ford here," and he shot a look at Jalen, gave me attitude, stared at me. In my line of work, that kind of look is the first sign of defiance. If I don't control it, it gets worse. You could feel the room turn, just a little, as Malcolm pressed. What made it a threat? Brantley didn't hesitate. "The look. That's how these things start." "And your response?" Malcolm asked, writing notes with deliberate calm. Ordered him to lower his head, take his hands out of his pockets. He didn't, so I put my hand on his shoulder, ordered cooperation. He resisted. I used a takedown maneuver. The words landed heavy, takedown maneuver, and Jalen flinched just hearing them. "How tall is the boy?" 5'3". "And you?" 6'3". You didn't need a law degree to do that math. The numbers spoke for themselves. Malcolm closed his notebook. "Thank you, Officer Brantley. Your testimony will be cross-checked against surveillance footage and civilian witnesses." He turned to the clerk. "Record everything, especially the part about the look." Nobody said a word, but you could feel the temperature in the room drop. That was only the beginning. Now, you got to understand, Malcolm Varelli wasn't born calm. He learned it the hard way, standing in the crossfire, never needing to shout to be heard. Brantley looked at him the way you look at someone who's got no business telling you how the world works. "I think I know what a threat looks like better than you do," Brantley said, oozing that good old boy confidence. Malcolm just wiped his glasses, slow as sunrise, and asked again, "At what moment? Based on what criteria?" Travis shifted in his seat. The kid lifted his chin. That's a form of defiance. A sigh, quiet but unmistakable, floated up from the gallery. The mood was changing from curiosity to doubt, from doubt to a kind of discomfort you only get when you realize the person in charge might be the problem. Malcolm pressed on. "If this had been a white teenager in a school uniform, same look would that have been a threat?" Brantley laughed, about to answer, but Malcolm cut him off. "Don't answer if you're not sure. Your testimony is long enough. That tension, you could cut it with a knife." The judge announced a break. The court would review footage. And right then, Everyone in the room knew this wasn't just about some kid and a cop. It was about how easy it was for someone to decide that even a glance could have a color. Back in session, Malcolm kept digging, asking about another case from a year earlier his time. The suspect was a white teenage girl. You didn't pin her to the ground. Why not? Brantley fumbled. That situation was different. Malcolm didn't press further, but the implication hung there, heavy as concrete. Justice, Malcolm said, is not allowed to remain silent when two identical actions receive different responses. He wasn't grandstanding, just stating a fact. And the room got it. But Travis Brantley wasn't going to back down. He snapped, "We deal with these people every day, Your Honor." He said like it was nothing, but the room heard it loud and clear. Those people and we. You don't need a PhD to know what that means. After the break, Brantley grabbed Jalen by the collar, dragging him down the hall like he was hauling trash, not a kid. Jalen's mom, Tonya Ford, saw it happen. Two guards held her back. Protocol, they said. But her voice cut through the air. "That's my son." The scene got caught on a shaky cell phone, and within hours it was all over the internet. No need for commentary. The video spoke for itself. The town exploded. People protested outside the courthouse, holding signs, "Justice doesn't drag kids. You fear what you never try to understand." No speeches, no leaders, just regular folks who'd seen enough. Inside, Judge Varelli watched the system he'd served his whole life unravel. And for once, he didn't try to stop it. He called the next hearing in the big hall, open to the public, media everywhere. Renee Marshall, a journalist who'd once been stopped by Brantley herself, sat in the front row, notebook ready. One after another, witnesses stepped up. Micah Green, arrested for asking the time, held overnight. Amamira Johnson, detained for tense behavior. Patterns emerged. Most victims were young, black, or brown, and every complaint disappeared under the phrase, "resolved internally." A junior staffer, Cameron Liu, found evidence. Brantley had edited reports, crossed out lines like "no signs of resistance," replaced with non-compliant behavior. One case, Malik Kroom's, a black teen, ended in death after a routine stop-no video. Body cam malfunctioned, just a grieving family and a doctored file. For the first time, the lies were right there, in print, impossible to ignore. The day of reckoning came fast. During testimony, Micah Green stood up and described his arrest, voice trembling but clear. Brantley, growing desperate, tried to retake control. "I'll come back to your neighborhood if I have to," he spat, as if that would scare anyone now. The crowd bristled. Malcolm stood not to defend himself, but to draw a line in the sand. "If you want to threaten someone, threaten me," he said, voice calm but final. And then it happened. Brantley slapped Malcolm across the face. Not a push, not an insult, a full-on slap, the kind you can't walk back. Malcolm didn't flinch, didn't retaliate. He stood tall, marked but unmoved, and told the clerk to record the assault. He demanded Brantley's suspension and indictment, right there. As security moved in, a federal officer entered. No fanfare, just authority. "You'll need to come with us, Officer Brantley. Any further conduct will be investigated at the federal level. No more hiding, no more internal resolution." This time, the system itself put handcuffs on the man who'd always counted on silence to protect him. That moment became a rallying cry. Not just in the courthouse, not just online, but everywhere: law schools, newsrooms, even in the offices of the state's highest judges. The slap wasn't about Malcolm Varelli or Travis Brantley anymore. It was about all the times justice had looked the other way. It forced people powerful Pleto look at themselves and ask, who are we really protecting? The aftermath wasn't some movie ending. Brantley was sentenced, the files reopened, the silence broken. But the system didn't change because one man fell. It started to change because people finally stopped pretending not to see. And maybe, just maybe, that's what justice really needs: not a hero, not revenge, but the courage to stand still, let the world see the truth, and refuse to look away when it matters most. So let me ask you, after all that, if you saw someone being dragged down a hallway, would you stay silent? Or would you finally decide to stand up? Let's talk about it. What do you think? Is justice just a word, or is it what happens when silence is no longer an option?